for our like transition from as a international student to Birmingham, it was not smooth.
No.
Reality of things, okay? This is a reality.
Breathing. Breathe out.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Of course.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's start.
Okay, we already started. We're gonna start again.
Yeah.
Don't be nervous, you are VP of Pro Bono!
What can I say?
It's recording now, we can do whatever you
Hello.
want. Testing. This can go into bloopers. Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your favorite girl here, Ella. I'm a law student at the University of Birmingham. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notification bell so you get notified whenever I post my videos. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for riding with me through this journey. Today we are joined by Sana, the VP, Vice President, Vice Chair of the Birmingham Law School Pro Bono group. So you guys better put something nice in the comments because it was so hard to get Sana on this channel today.
Please do, guys.
So thank you so much, Sana, for agreeing to grant this interview with me. Thank you so much. You're not going to only be benefiting myself because I get to learn something new from you today, but it's going to benefit a lot of people who will eventually come across this video one day.
For sure.
Which is fine. All right. Can you give us a little background about yourself? Like, who's Sana? Where did you go to undergrad? Stuff like that. So.
Sure. So my name is Sana. I have an undergraduate degree from the University of Toronto. I majored in political science and then I double minored in human geography and psychology.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I had to keep the psychology in because my parents were like, what about sciences? And I was like, let me minor in psychology. So yeah, that's what I did. During my undergrad, I have always been part of like a lot of extracurricular activities, which is why I think kind of coming back to Pro Bono, which is why I got VP, which is going to be a funny story on its own. But I was president for Islamic Relief Canada for like our campus. I was also president for the Citizens Foundation, which are all charitable organizations. I started off from the marketing director, then I worked up, you know? It's a process, guys.
You're directing things.
Right? And then, yeah, so it was just a process. My undergrad was amazing, but yeah, that's a little bit about my background. But
okay, so why law school? Why law school in the UK?
Okay, so starting with why law school before anything else, I didn't know. When I applied from high school into undergrad, I actually applied to psychological and health sciences.
Oh, you wanted to go through with parent science?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very people-pleasing behavior. But yeah, that was exactly why I went through. I applied for that, and then within the first semester, I took an elective, which was a political science. It was called poli-sci, so political science. So it was just an elective, just to fill up like that 5 courses limit, whatever. And then I realized I did really well. And not only did I do really well, I enjoyed it.
Ah, that's good.
So it was like a click in like first semester where I was like, I should. But then again, what clicked in was like my parents, oh my gosh, figuring that out. So my second semester was still very health sciences based. I continued that, but I took my 3 electives were all political science related, human geography, just so I could get like a gist of a bunch of things. And then second to third years where I was like, okay, let's get serious about this, you know? So then that's where I started looking into LSATs and the whole process applying from that section. And from the get-go, I knew LSATs were not for me. Me too. I was like, I am not writing an LSAT. That was, if I felt like it was going to be beneficial to me, people might disagree, but I didn't think it brought any value to me. I think it's a bunch of riddles. I'm not there to solve riddles. That's not who I am. And I was like, it doesn't determine how good I am at something. So I knew I wanted to take like a different route. But yeah, that's the thought process behind it. Then I came across like an ad for studying in the UK and it felt like a sign. But yeah, that's how it stemmed law school.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing that experience. I also agree with you on the LSAT thing. I always see it on this channel too. I tried. I paid a lot to learn about it, and I was like, no, I don't see where this is going. And I saw Paul McConnell's video on YouTube about UOB, and I'm like, well, I have all the qualifications. Let's see how this goes.
Exactly.
And that was why I did it too. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, you finished undergrad and then you came here. Did you have any legal work experience before coming into law school, or was it a thing of I just finished undergrad, I'm just going straight to UOB?
There was no experience whatsoever. Legally, there was nothing there. I did have, as I said, extracurricular activities. I worked at Canadian Tire for a little bit. I worked at my dad's store for a bit. It was very like odd jobs, nothing relevant to the legal field in itself.
Okay.
But yeah, there was nothing, and I felt like that was one of my insecurities per se, because I was like, what do I bring to the table? I know I'm a hardworking person. I know I'm a fast learner. I know like the core or the transferable skills. I knew I excelled, and I know like once you teach me something, I will do my all. But it was like, how do I convey that to a potential employer?
That's true.
That I am capable of doing
skills,
this,
even if I haven't gone through this route yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially with the legal experience part, I felt like that was like a big thing, and I felt like my resume was like a big gap because there was no legal experience per se, not even volunteering. There was nothing. But yeah, I think that was a thing that I had to get over on my own.
Well, that makes sense, and I think it's a hurdle that a lot of us have to go through, because I don't know, if companies are looking for people that have experiences, but you're not willing to give people experiences. Where are we going to get the experiences from? So yeah, it's totally understandable. All right, thank you for answering that. We're international students here at UOB. I'm pretty sure that this is your first time being an international student.
Yeah.
So I want to know how that experience has been for you. Did you have any expectations coming into the UK, into Birmingham? And then how have you handled it? How have those expectations been met? I'm laughing because I kind of know the answer. But yeah, how's your international student experience been so far?
Fair. Okay, so to begin, my parents are very traditional parents. So it was to the point where we weren't allowed to do like sleepovers at like our cousin's house, because they were just like, very like, they kept us really like close to them, nested and like cuddled and little like, like we're like little protected. We're just, little kids. So me even asking for such a big thing, like forget going to my cousin's house, which is like 10 minutes down the road.
Moving to another continent
for 2 years. Sorry. So yeah, first of all, bringing that up to them was a big deal, because I was trying to explain to them internationally and blah, whatever. And when things are meant for you, they just fall into place. And my dad's like, is this what you want to do? And I'm like, yeah.
No stress?
No stress. What? I'm a brown girl. It's not that easy out there, okay? And so when he said, if it works for you, then by all means. And I was like, so you're telling me in 2 months I'm going to the UK? Because I got in, I didn't tell anyone that I applied.
That's what you just said first.
Sorry. Sorry.
So you already got everything prepared, and so it was like, okay, why not?
Yeah. Because my two options, one of them was when I researched more about like the UK, I was like, okay, either I can finish this up in 2 years and get it over with, or I can write the LSAT. And to take another year off, write the LSAT, study for it, and then
do law school 3 years again.
Exactly. Yeah. So I should have started from there. I agree.
No, that's fine.
So I applied without telling anyone, like.
And the application fee was cheap too. So that's also why. It was like £25 for 5 schools. I was like,
by all means, right? Applied, did everything, got my references just cause, and I was like, whatever, let's just send it as a package. And then when I got accepted, that's when I told everyone. Yeah. And I was like, hey, so. But yeah, it was kind of underwhelming because everyone was kind of confused. Like,
you expected the fight.
Yeah. It was underwhelming both ways. I expected it to be like a commotion, and second, be like, oh, you got into law school. But everyone was kind of confused. They're like, what did you just do?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then got in. Expectations-wise, from like University of Birmingham or like Birmingham on its own, I knew it was going to be a whole different country. I knew the norms were not going to match. I had very low expectations, especially thinking about how I was going to find friends, because I was coming alone. I had no one, mentor-wise, nothing. It was just blank me. Everything was left to me. Decisions were left to me, like from my parents too. They're like, you're there now, you know what's best. Yeah. And I was like, I wasn't raised like this though. I know. I was like but when I came here, I think it was, in terms of, I'm just going to speak about my community, like the Canadian LLB for grad program especially. We are so closely knit. I felt like home. I felt like excited to go to school because of like this whole community we built on our own. Of course, everyone here that I've met have been great, but I meant like I wasn't expecting. It was a pleasant surprise. I'm glad. Keep your expectations low. Your cohort might not be that good.
That's true. Every cohort is different. 23, 24, I think we're pretty great. 100%. Honestly.
I was really grateful, and we had a lot of like moments where we got together. We had social like Galentines. We had so many things that to like bond together, because no one has family here like that where they can like trust and just like get along with. So in that aspect, loved it. I'm so glad for the community that we've built here. But in terms of like Birmingham on its own, the university on its own, Underwhelming.
Inserts awkward silence.
I'm trying to. It's like
No, but in what way? Maybe if you give examples, then that will give an example.
For me personally, like I love rain. Right, I love it, but it's the bipolarness is crazy to me. Okay. That's one aspect. In terms of like even like the resources that are offered on campus, there are a vast amount of them where I feel like there's so many where they get lost. You don't know what you're looking for anymore because there's so many. In terms of there are a lot of opportunities for you to get to know each other, which is a good thing for sure. But yeah, I think it's your experience is what you make of it.
That's true.
I think that's what at least happened for me. I had low expectations coming in, and then being able to bond with everyone and like courses wise, everything, you know, building connections with like, you know, different professors like Paul and like it was a nice experience to have. From that point of view.
No, I agree. I don't know for myself. I don't even know if I had expectations. I mean, I was an international student in Canada.
Fair.
So I knew what it was like to be an international student. But I'm happy that I started that experience in Canada first before coming here. I don't think I would have been happy straight coming into UK as an international student because it's a very different experience, and there's something odd and there's something rigid about the UK system. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about it. When I find the words in the future, maybe I'll do a video.
No, I do agree with you with that. Just remembered, even in terms of for our like transition from as a Canadian international student to Birmingham, it was not smooth.
No,
I don't think
we had to figure a lot of things out by 100%. Ourselves, and that's why the community was good too.
Exactly. I feel like I found out so many things that were offered on campus in terms of not just resources, but even in terms of as an international student, my visa, things expiring, BRP, everything.
Exactly.
Everything was. I found out about it because of emails either from like the government,
home office,
or it was from like my friends here,
chat.
like,
so
did you see that?
BRP, your e-visa, get it done. You know, the school doesn't really tell you that. It doesn't make sense because we are paying a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I mean by resources. Like even like the international societies, whatever that they do have, they're not very effective.
That's fair. I mean, we have Canadian society, which I would even consider like an international society because it's majorly made of Canadians.
That's more social.
But it's social too. But then there are other countries and communities too that have their society. But I feel like it's also the onus should be on the institution as well.
Yeah,
because
for sure. Yeah.
I went to York University. There was something called York International. Literally, you're an international student. You're landing from Pearson. You arrive on campus. The office is there for you, and there's no this. And that was what I did when I came here too. I went to the international office here, and like old elevators. I went in, and like they were confused, didn't know what answer to give me to my questions. And I'm like, why are you in international office? Why do you have a job and you don't know all these things? And everyone is hesitant to give you immigration advice. I'm not asking for immigration advice. I'm asking for, do I need this? Like, how do I go about getting a social insurance number, a national insurance number to work? I need more information on that. And if the staff in school is not able to provide that, something York International did was they would hire immigration advisors, have sessions for students and let us know what is happening because it's dependent. Our visas are dependent on, we are dependent on our visas being here. Our visas are dependent on us being here. We depend on our visa to be here. Yeah. Anyways, that was such a rant, but and I know people will get the gist of what this is about.
No, for sure. Even I think we were discussing it a couple of days ago. We were talking about how like we need these things around us to like work for us because we're new here. We don't know how things work. And like as you said, you were a international student when you were in Canada, and I was like, while I was in Canada, I wasn't international, but I didn't really focus on like the resources provided to international students because it was never a concern to me. But now that I am one, I'm like, wow, we need to be so much more accessible. Not everyone has the luxury of knowing things or having family or having friends. Like they really, really, really need these different resources in place to work for them.
Yeah. And there are also younger people coming. There are people who came straight from high school.
Exactly.
In first year now, the 3-year program, 17-year-olds, and they're like, you don't know what's going on, and that's not good because I don't know. Just do better. Anyway, thank you so much for answering that question, and for myself too, for us. But we can move on to pro bono now. So, did you always know about pro bono? Did you know you wanted to do it? Did you know you wanted to be VP?
Okay, so starting off with pro bono in itself, I've been exposed to pro bono since undergrad, like as a concept or as like a society, because I I know, and it sounds so cliche, but it's not. Genuinely, for me, pro bono is something that I want to stick to for the rest of my life and my entirety of my career.
Ooh.
Like, that is something I want to make sure that I do with my degree, whether in whichever capacity I can.
Yeah.
Because I do think, even religiously, socially, morally, I think it's a part of me that I want to do, which is why I couldn't do pro bono like in undergrad, because we don't have like law programs.
Yeah.
But in terms of charitable organizations, I was always part of them, multiple of them, 3 at a time, because that's who I am. That's what I wanted to do. So when I was researching and figuring out different universities, whether that be Leicester, Southampton, Aberdeen, UOB, I was trying to see like
your requirements.
100%. I wanted to see how big their community was for that, because that's something I wanted to invest in.
Yeah.
That was something I wanted in any capacity.
Yeah.
VP was cool, but like I mean, like for me, even like as a student volunteer, that was something that I wanted to do. I was like, in any which way that I can help the community, 100% I want to. When I came here, I think applications began like November.
Yeah, and they were due December 1st.
Yeah, something like that. So
yeah. When you arrive here, everything just starts getting due, like back to back.
Formatives.
Yeah.
We just, I think, finished formatives.
Criminal law, to be specific.
Criminal law and tort, I think it was. I think both of them, it was both of them at the same time, like literally 2 days apart. And then like a week later, these submissions were due. And I was like, okay, cool. I wanted to be part of this. So the breakdown was that you could apply for a student volunteer position. That was one, just that. And then there was like another committee position.
Sorry, which was the one I did.
Yeah, which is
no responsibilities, but I didn't want 100%. Much more work.
Fair.
Yeah.
For me, I do have background in marketing and like publicity and fundraising aspect of things, which I remember I told you guys like
in the beginning.
The little step stuff. So I wanted to use that to my advantage. So I was like, I do want to be a student volunteer, but at the same time, if let's suppose I am a good candidate for publicity and fundraising, that's what I want to be. You know, that's where I drew the line, where I was like, that's the amount of help that I think I can really help with my. That doesn't make sense.
Your skills.
Yeah, my skills. Yeah, where it can. Yeah, it can be helpful there.
Yeah.
Fast forward, January, I get an email from the head of the pro bonos asking me for an interview, and at that time it was not specified for what role it was. It was just that you have made it to the committee positions.
Okay, so you applied. You did this. If you're applying for a committee position, you're automatically applying for the
student volunteer position.
Okay, and then you got an email for an interview.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, dumb of me, but in the head of where, like, you know, where they said, where they tell you, the subject part of it, it did say deputy chair / chair interviews.
I didn't register.
Yeah, I was like, I think they messed up, but it's okay, because I didn't apply for it, so I was like, nah, it's fine. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And then I walk into like the interview, and it
was in person.
Oh yes, so that's one of the changes now. Initially, when I did it, it was interviews like in person.
Okay.
But this year they changed it into assessment centers. So I walk in and I see the old deputy chair, and I see Amy, who is the head, and I was like, okay, I'm like, okay, publicity and fundraising, it's really cool, you know, like they're taking it really serious around here. And then they're asking me questions, and the questions did begin as publicity and fundraising. There was like, what marketing experience, leadership qualities. They were asking like specific questions like that. Again, speak about your transferable skills if you are going to apply. Speak about anything that you know you bring to the table that would benefit that role. You don't know how someone will perceive that. So just
don't belittle yourself and take all your experiences.
No cookie cutter answers. Genuinely, like, think about it like things that you have done. It's originality, guys. That's where it gets you places. And then right before it was like a 10-minute interview, not long at all, and really short. And the first 2 minutes was them like just discussing how this is gonna go, whatever. Then Amy asks a question. She's like, why did you not apply for deputy chair? And I was like, oh, I didn't apply for deputy chair because I felt like I was in my first year. I have no pro bono experience, no legal experience. And I'm like, I don't think I was qualified enough compared to people that are in their second to third year.
They might have had the experience
degree, that were part of pro bono since its beginning, right? I was like, I don't think I have leverage like that. And they're like, oh, okay. But how do you feel about deputy chair? And I was like,
your interview was that good?
Yeah.
Don't believe, because there's no way they were asking other people that question.
I genuinely think they asked me is because when you make your application, I obviously spoke about my undergrad experience, in which I have a lot of vice president. I have vice president roles, I have president roles, and not just for 1 year. I've kept them for 2 years. Elected. So like it speaks volume, I guess, that I have experience dealing with a large group
of people
like leading them or whatever it may be. I think that's what it was more so, because during my interview my phone kept ringing and it kept buzzing.
Busy lady.
No, my brothers were calling me and it kept start buzzing, and I genuinely didn't realize it's mine because I thought I turned it off. And then they're like, "What's ringing?" And it's in my pocket, and I'm just like, I'm just like constantly like trying to close it.
Yeah.
And my heart was beating so fast. And I thought I actually ruined that interview because I felt like they realized it was me. But then they were fine with it, which is sweet of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they're like, okay, that's cool. I'm like, nice, okay. And then I left and I was like, okay, I think I did. If they were asking about deputy chair position, but I already said no because I don't think I'm qualified. I was like, I got publicity. I walked out thinking, I'm like, I'm publicity and fundraising. I got that in the bag. Everyone's like, how'd your interview go? I'm like, it was fine, guys. It was good. I don't want to I didn't want to speak about it too much. But then, yeah, Amy emailed me once. I get Joelle, the chair, when she spoke to her, and then they emailed me saying, how do you feel about taking on the role of deputy chair? And I was like, a lot of emotions. I was like, am I ready for it? Do I want to commit to something like that?
Yeah.
Especially the way that the role was advertised, it felt like it was very heavy. So I wasn't sure like that. So we were like, okay, cool, whatever. And then I accepted it because I was like, this is a pretty big deal. It was like an honor for me, I think, because I never applied for it, one. Second, the head is asking you to do something that you didn't even apply for, but they felt you were qualified enough.
Yeah.
So it made me feel really nice about myself.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that story, Sana. So now as deputy chair, vice president, these are like two words that we just use interchangeably. It's the same role, just, synonyms, right? What are some things that you do in this role right now? Yeah, let's start with that first. What are some things you do in this role?
So some things that I do in this role, the way, I think it just depends on the way that the team is formatted in a way, I think. But with me and Joelle, I've never worked with her before.
Joelle is the chair.
Yes, sorry. She's the chair for Pro Bono. Even like during class, we never really interacted like that. So I didn't know what to expect. But it was a really pleasant surprise because she applied for chair and good for her, she got it. And
was she part of the people in the interview that interviewed you, or this was the old?
No.
Or was it old?
Yeah. She was actually
she was being interviewed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So when we had our first meeting together, we were pretty much on the same page, and it felt really like natural. It was a really nice process. So the way we actually distributed tasks was that we literally, like, I took care of like finances and like sending messages here and there, but she dealt with more of the administrative, like dealing with like Kepler, Amy, different like actors for Pro Bono, because at the end of the day she is chair. So I feel like she gets to do that. I get to interact with like the publicity and fundraising. Plus, like, we just divided like in a way where
based on your strengths and what you're supposed to do.
It was never like, oh, this is your job because this was in your thing, and this is anything I could have picked up. I picked up anything she could have, she did. And it was just like, whatever she allocated me, I was like, great, I'll help you wherever I can.
Okay, that's good to know. So you've been doing this now for, I would just say almost a year.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, almost a year. And how do you feel about the role right now? Do you think you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish when you eventually became the chair? Like, did you plan on accomplishing anything? How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, so then the initial email, when it came, I was like, okay, this means that I can do a much bigger impact than I thought. And the role, the way it was presented to us, it was more so of a proactive role, especially when it came to fundraising, when it came to like making sure the team, the way it functions, it was very proactive, I felt. And I also felt like if led to pose, like student volunteers couldn't make it to like sometimes to their projects or whatever, I thought I would have like a say in how maybe I can go on my own, or maybe I can help in a certain manner. But honestly, I don't think I had a role impact-wise. It was very administrative. It was very deal with like the fighting, deal with like the little arguments that are taking place. It was majorly just to make sure things are happening. Yeah. And even that Joelle was there. So like I felt like for me, it was more so like unless Joelle couldn't, then I would come in. But for me, it was a very how do I say it? Like,
it didn't seem pretty active in the sense that
I felt like I could have done so much more.
Yeah.
So much more, especially when it came to fundraising. I just felt like the expectation that me and Joelle both came into this was we're going to fundraise this, like sky's the limit. We're going to do this. But then getting feedback like we're doing a bit too much, or
so there was a lot of bureaucracy.
Yes. Yeah. Like in a way it was kind of like, oh, you guys are doing too much, or it was in a way like, slow down a bit. It's getting, or you guys are oversaturating like the market for like pro bono things. But in mine and Joelle's head, it was more so like the whole thing is about exposure. Yeah. pro bono, the only way it can work is if we get money for legal aid. Yeah. So obviously we don't get money from like the campus like that. So it was obviously because it's like a charitable thing. So
we knew create events.
Exactly. And like we kept like really minimal, like £1, £2 for like entrance fees for things like that. And solely for that purpose. We never used it for like recreational things. But yeah, I felt like we came in with a very strong-headed, like, we're going to make an impact kind of intention. But I don't think that was the norm here like that. I think it was more so like very...
Mild,
yeah.
It might be probably a UK thing. It's just honestly.
Maybe you guys can tell that to us, but yeah, I don't know. I felt very like, and that's fine. But I think we were really clear initially with our meetings with all the heads that this is what we vision.
Yeah.
And we were very applauded. We were like, oh my gosh, good job. Like you guys have like such an initiative, like mindset. You guys like leadership. And when someone like backs you up like that, in your head you think this is...
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah, this is a good thing. We're going to get backing. But I do think that we were not on the same page, which... I don't think is anyone's fault, but I do think it should be clarified, which is why this year, when we were hiring people and like when we were setting up events for people to get to know pro bono and like the different expectations. Oh, okay.
Expectations.
Okay. But yeah, so when they were creating like
for the new committee for 2025.
2026.
What are we? 26. Yeah.
2026. She's like, once I graduate, I'm out anyway. We wanted to make sure they knew what they were signing up for. It's the bare minimum, I think, that you should know what is going on, what's going to happen. So we had like a bunch of like panel events, interview discussions with like students that are prospective like applicants, and we were like, whatever questions you have, you're going to get a transparent answer. We were like, we're not recording anything. It's whatever you want to like questions you ask. We will let you know. So they were asking about like what our every role was, actual role, what it was, not on paper. Like what did you actually do? We explained. We said that in the first semester we were like very proactive. We were very like like we're gonna do this. But second semester we're very like calm down. It is hiring season anyway, so we're going over applications. Like we get over 300 plus for student volunteers. So
you guys had to do that.
So committee goes through the heads. But student volunteers will be us and committee members that will mark it.
Oh.
So right now we're marking student volunteer applications.
You marker? I didn't know that. Yo. Okay. That's good. Okay, that's something else that you're doing. I thought that only staff handle all of that.
Oh, no. Student volunteers, us and committee members. Okay. Like we oversee it. We make sure that there's like a certain standard that is met every single time.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's... But what I meant by proactive though wasn't in terms of like the pro bono society in itself. I meant like the impact in the real world. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different projects that we offer, from like commercial awareness, tenancy, flag. Yeah, there's so many. I wanted to be actively there, helping people, seeing the difference that I'm making. But then I was reassured that, this behind the scenes is also really helpful for like the club to function.
Which is also true.
I agree, right? But I think, again, that's what I mean by expectation. The expectations were very different.
Okay, that's fair. So what I'm hearing and what I've also heard you say in the past is that, so for example, like some people had actual clients that they went to with lawyers, they interviewed the clients and they helped them. And my own pro bono was more of research and a presentation. So I think you would have wanted a bit of that as well, 100%. In addition to that experience, as opposed to just instead of having like a police officer, instead of just working in the station, you want to go out into the field.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm hearing, and that's fair. That's honestly fair, considering what your experience was like to in undergrad and how involved you were. I can see why. I can see why you would have wanted more out of this position. But like they said, also being behind the scenes has also probably helped volunteers like myself to have things running smoothly.
For sure,
because in my group, which is also headed by a student coordinator and a staff coordinator, there were times where they also didn't know what was going on. So I'm sure that with you all being at the top, somehow you were able to influence positive things that were happening at the bottom. So
tried our best. Genuinely tried our best.
Don't feel like you didn't give it your all. I'm telling you now as a volunteer that at the end, my pro bono has ended now. Some other people are still volunteering, but that doesn't concern me. So apply. But I'm saying that it was a good experience for my team.
thank you.
Some other people might not have that because some people
Yeah.
dropped out. You know, you guys must have gone through a lot.
Yeah.
I knew people dropped out. Maybe some coordinators were not probably responding.
Yeah.
You know, people who would apply and not do the job. So I can't even imagine what, you know,
Yeah.
being the leader at that top, heading over 300 plus students.
It was
is
very
like-
upsetting letting people go because
Yeah.
they weren't doing their jobs. And it was
Yeah.
like people are complaining, and rightfully so. I use a complaining term in a way where it was irritating to them, and I felt really bad, but like people not holding their end of the bargain, and then they
Yeah.
had to take up more.
Yeah.
And that's not fair because everyone has commitments, everyone's busy, everyone,
School,
you know,
yeah.
exactly. Everyone has
Yeah.
things going on.
Yeah.
You assuming that you can take like a back foot and just expect things to happen and get that on like a resume stamp, that's not fair.
That's not fair. Yeah. Plus,
yeah.
there are people who also applied for it who were probably more deserving than you and they didn't get
100%.
it.
I feel so bad,
And then
yeah.
now you are, you know, messing up the position and whatnot. But
Yeah.
hey, that's reality of life that
Yeah.
Pro Bono has shown us. But that's fair. I had other questions about Pro Bono to ask, but I think you kind of answered them while talking about your story.
I talk a little too much.
No, you do great. It's not you talking too much. But what advice, let me say, do you have for the incoming 2025-2026 Pro Bono group? And hopefully you also are watching the video and sharing it as well.
Please do, guys. It took me a lot to come here. I'm kidding.
Yes.
So advice, I feel like it sounds cliche when people say it, but do you mean application process or just
Whether application, whoever the future chair and vice chair will be, if they come across this video one day in life, not even for now, even in the future, what
Yeah.
advice in general do you have for the Birmingham Law School Pro Bono groups in the future?
Okay. I think for me, the biggest advice is learning to balance your relationships, especially when it comes to professionalism. It is so important, like so important, especially the way you network, the way you make sure you get your point across without
Being rude or defensive.
Yeah, exactly. There's a way you can present yourself, and I genuinely think that was like a skill I acquired now through Pro Bono, because I think I consider myself very like, this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But the real world, that's not how you can function. You can't get up and be like, no, you suck. No, that's not.
That's why they ask about teamwork in interviews. Like, this is literally what teamwork is.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get muddy. But how are you going to
100%, yeah.
unmud it?
100%. No, literally, that's literally
Yeah.
what it is. Like how you're literally going to like, you have to like detach in a certain way where you just have to like, there is a persona of you that's angry, mad, doesn't like the way things are going, but at the same time, you have to learn how to, you know,
mask it and
yeah,
move through
the
it.
way you move forward, because I think not just now, not just undergrad or like your law school, you're gonna need this skill forever.
Yeah.
You're not always gonna be at the top of the food chain, you know.
No.
You're gonna build your way up, and then there's gonna be a lot of disagreements. There's so much going on, but you just have to learn how to really formulate yourself and present yourself in a professional manner,
Yeah.
where you're respected. I'm not telling you to like just be like a yes man, but at the same time, there's a way you keep your self-respect, respect the other person,
Yeah.
and understand that there can be varying opinions, but it's the way you present yourself.
Yeah.
That's simply
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So I'm hearing professionalism, being professional, understanding that teamwork is important. Every time things wouldn't go your way, but that's okay. It's how you move on from it. And then if you have ideas, it also depends on how you present them.
100%.
Okay, that's good. That's good advice. Thank you so much, Sarah. Let's move on to the fun part. Not that Pro Bono wasn't fun, but let's move on to the fun part. Okay,